would have one strategy for each side, right? You know you're going to play blue, you're going to play red, have one of each, but then also have one that just makes no sense. A complete curveball that you can bust out anytime, a very high-risk, high-reward composition that you've practiced a lot of the time. When you're down, backs against the wall, you bust out the composition, take it to the 2-2, and usually teams take that route, and they will follow some of my advice so far by taking in that Jarvan, which makes a lot of sense against what Cloud9 already has drafted.
Looks like Kale, they're not on the brain, at least for now. Renekton instead banned away. That J4 makes a lot of sense. As we mentioned, good solid pick for the comp, good against the champion C9 have showed, and of course is a pick to take away from Blabber, who is a little bit pinched on champions given the texture of the draft so far. Taric Hover will of course mean a Lee Sin pick. I think we'll see a lot of Taric Sunum, you know, showing off and hovers, but don't expect it to be locked in too often, as Riven will get locked in here, I assume for Kumo, but you do never know.
That's awesome. Having a Riven here makes up for a big lack of damage in the composition otherwise, and she's so good with Black Shield. That's a fat Riven coming at you that you can't stun, you can't lock down, that's going to be able to burst your entire team down. Now I'm curious as to what matchup she's going to be taking, because someone has to go up against the Rise, and now somebody is going to have to go up against the Rumble. And if I'm Riven, I would want to be up against Rumble most of the time. Your shield can defer a lot of his damage, you can farm safely, and it's a lot easier to get out of ganks as opposed to being against a Rise Jarvan that presses W and you're done.
Yeah, it looks like that's what they've decided as well. So curious to see the counter pick effectively here being the Rumble for the Riven. I mean, they maybe didn't know exactly where the picks were going because they could be flexed, although I think most people would guess Morgana mid and Riven top. Whatever the reason, certainly maybe just compositionally, TSM Academy like it more. We've seen Rumble Jarvan be a classic combo for a very long time now.
And it's going to be super good, but not against the Riven. She can get out of that. She can get out of the Cataclysm, so can Lee Sin, but everybody else, I mean, Rakan can, but the carries that matter, the Xayah and Morgana cannot. So they're going to have to transition the Rumble Jarvan out of the laning phase into team fight as quickly as possible, which is typically around the 15-minute mark when Rumble hits that first item spike, a lot of magic penetration, where he's going to be able to do a lot of work. And Westrice there, dropping his headset, but still solid enough to give the handshake.
All right, so Wes back to the crowd, and the coaches will leave it to the teams to play out game number one. Definitely curious to see Morgana stock rising a lot. Again, it's been great to see picks come more quickly to the forefront of Academy, I feel like. I mean, Morgana at this point has to be a pick that's on the minds of almost every team. But
around the world, Morgana has surged. The ability to stop playmaking from the opposing team is so amazing that just by having her, you don't even want to engage. You don't even try. So it stops people from even looking at fights that normally they would take. So that's what she's great at.
Well, Cloud9 have been pretty methodical all season long. We'll see if they can play another kind of quieter, more map-oriented game, which they have done successfully for many, many games this split. However, TSM have been extraordinarily aggressive, especially come the postseason. So don't expect Grieg to be too quiet in these early levels.
Absolutely not. He's got plenty of gank paths to go for. And it's not that Morgana's ungankable early on, by the way. She's not going to start with Black Shield, so a Blaze Olive can definitely burst down that shield with his spells, and all it takes is Jarvan to be there, hits that knockup, she's done.
It's also Glacial Augment for Golden Glue as well, so going to be going for some of those active items, look for Twin Shadows, look for GLP, so much more of a utility-style champion. Think kind of on the same lines as Lissandra, just augmenting your team really more than anything else, although you do decent damage. Other than that, it's Conqueror for both Kumo, Blabber, and Grieg, so potentially a lot to work with there in the top side, and of course Hail of Blades for Keith, so wanting to take the much more early game oriented rune rather than the lethal tempo that we see Tactical with.
And it seems like a lot of junglers who are experimenting with their runes recently, you know, Lee Sins have gone Electrocute most of the time, but in Korea, Tarzan has been going with Conquer, and I think that's where people have been trying to imitate him as one of the world's highest IQ junglers. So if he's doing it, you don't have to think about it. They just start copying it, see if it makes sense. But to put some thought behind it, 2 Qs, that's already 2 stacks. You hit an E, activate it again, hit some auto attacks. By the time you drop that kick, you're dealing a little bit of true damage and healing off it. So Lee Sin can build up those stacks very quickly.
Feels like for these players as well, they just love to fight each other so much that kind of don't want to be the guy that doesn't have Conqueror when the Scuttle Crab fight comes in 3 minutes. So the Grig going blue Gromp, and now bypassing his walls, will go onto his left side of the jungle. Blabber already working on the Scuttle Crab on the right-hand side.
Yeah, he's gonna be going for that red buff as quickly as he can to make sure that he's going to be capable of ganking. Jarvan is not that strong without red buff in his early ganks. You absolutely need it. Otherwise, you're not doing a whole lot of damage. Luckily, he's going to find a Scuttle Crab that's still available, and both teams will get their piece of the pie for the river monsters.
Yep. Will be spotted out. Blabber, though, already finished that off, so actually going straight to his blue buff, wanting to maybe just provide some coverage here on the left-hand side, because Brandini was getting work done early, actually gone Grasp Rumble there in the top lane, so looking to fight a little more often. Riven should be good here, but might take a little while to really get a foothold in the matchup. Riven really does need all 3 of her spells to do a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of cooldown reduction. So she's going to be typically waiting for a few items before she even wants that much jungle attention, as long as she's farming safely. And it's very different from how it works in solo queue, where people have a Riven and you just gank that lane over and over and hope she gets fed. Whereas in pro games, Rivens typically prefer, okay, let me get that Warhammer, I can start hitting some CDR, let me get my CDR boots if I'm going to go for them, or the Black Cleaver before we can really start looking for a gank, because no one puts himself in a position to get one shot nearly as often. They have experience against these champions.
You can see right now, Rumble feeling good in the early stages of the lane. Kumo, though, just going to combo down the minions, gets almost everyone. Just barely misses that as Blabber onto the Raptors now. Grig on his top side is taking his Krugs, is maybe looking top lane. But level 4 with the double buffs, feeling fairly strong.
And he's not going to be playing aggressive in the top side, so Grig should not bother with going for a gank here. And he recognizes it, bases it right away. Riven knows at least in his bot side. So if you're playing a carry like this, there's no reason to even risk it. Just wait till your jungler is at least on your side before you look for a play.
Just getting the information there. It's Golden Blue starting to finally get pushed in a little more. Had the advantage with the puddle in the early levels, but Rise doesn't take long to start wave clearing through these minions. Kumo there, a bit of trade back and forth, but nicely timed shield there from Brandini prevents any real follow-up. Bases have already happened in the bot side though. Keith has been pushing aggressively, although he's down a few CS given that they did take a recall, but returning back with some longswords as a pickaxe is on the other side there for tactical.
And that's what so many of these matchups are going to end up being. It's just complete wave clear. And in that department, TSM has a pretty sizable advantage. Morgana's puddle, when she gets levels, can clear out the entire wave, but it's not as fast as a strong item Rise. This looks like a gank in the top side onto Brandini through the lane.
Blabber trying to get it set up. Kumo there a little too far forward, but Brandini has taken the bait. First blood on the table, and it's collected by Kumo.
Being really aggressive in that lane, trying to push the wave, but the Riven had backup, able to get that first blood onto the matchup, and that is going to swing the thing in that lane significantly.
It's like almost zero sums expanded. I think Blabber just used his smite as TP back in from Brandini, trying to catch someone, but Kumo makes his recall back safely, picks up his hammer. Grig will secure the crab, but Brandini tried something there. Doesn't find anything else.
I've been loving that trend, though, that top laners are using their teleport instead of back to lane in the river when a Scuttle Crab is available to help their junglers secure an extra objective. So huge, huge play out of him, even though it's kind of minor. And here it is again, trying to push into wave. Little bit of an overstay, but Riven's tankiness with the shield is what allows her to stay in that. Otherwise, not many other champions would have actually been able to be in that position and not die and trade for first blood.
Yeah, between Lee Sin and Riven, so much mobility to chase down the Rumble, though Brandini is not deterred by the early first blood. He's continuing to gain CS and just push in the Riven as often as he can. Especially being level 6, Brandini has another option available. Keith and Diamond, though, back to business.
And he shouldn't be deterred. He didn't burn his flash. He's still up about 15 CS once the wave crashes. With a little bit of armor, as he already has with that cloth, he's going to be able to survive the ganks a lot better. So I'm curious if he's going to go with a Ninja Tabi, which would make a significant difference when it comes to 2v2ing in this lane. And look at that. He's even gone ahead and placed a pink ward in the enemy blue buff, so that's a real team player.
Yeah, it feels like TSM Academy indicating that they will be playing topside, at least right now. Good news though for Keith and Diamond, who are just shoving in relentlessly, pick themselves up an almost 10 CS lead, and that first plate for some extra gold as well.
And this is when Morgana can start roaming around. She pushed the wave, has advantage over Rise, and now they're going to be contesting the blue buff. It looks like C9 will be playing, or yeah, C9 Academy will be playing to this tempo for most of the game. Push the wave on mid lane and try to make something with Blabber happen. We were discussing in the pre-game how these two guys together are probably the biggest challenge for a Blazolid. And if he can get past this, that it'll be a huge milestone for his career.
Yeah, you could see Golden Glue knew he was there to the wave first, so can't really face check in the fog there for a Blazolive, so Grig has to give his blue, which Blabber did get. Level 6 now for the Lee Sin. Grig just dinging as well, so we'll see if the junglers can use those ultis to great effect in either of these lanes. But that's been just a very deliberate early game, I guess I'll say. I mean, as you said, there's lots of wave clear, so we are expecting maybe a bit more of a passive situation in the early stages. Just that really well-timed gank by Blabber with maybe a second here has been all the action.
Yeah, both these teams have very clear conditions in the mid game, but a fight is happening bot.
As combo treats to the flash though, still gets kicked to the side of the wall, and that's enough for Diamond to get the kill.
And that was a kick flash out of Blabber to make sure that Treats was not able to get out of that situation. He does it to the side, and it's just as valuable as doing it further back. You get the kill in the end, you traded minimal damage, and there's a dragon available that they know that Jarvan is going topside, and so he's just going to go ahead and take that as the reward. Look at how easily Morgana can wave clear that. That's just, it's so frustrating to play mid lane against her when you have to press all sorts of spells and do all sorts of acrobats to clear the wave, and she just presses W, and it's gone.
As satisfying as it was all the way when I started playing, as I watched this gank again.
So the Rakan really does a great job in engaging from the fog of war. Otherwise, Treats would not have been in that location. He just had no idea that the gank was coming. Playing really well with the vision, knowing that you had a control ward that Lee Sin can approach, and that Rakan was not sitting in a warded brush, meant that he could engage and come out of nowhere.
I also don't know exactly how Diamond was 6 when Keith was 5, but however the XP worked out, it's certainly enough to surprise the bot lane. As Kumo did find Grig on this left side for the Scuttle Crab, is encouraging Blabber to come back up top, but this time there's a ward in the brush that Blabber has found himself in.
Okay, so this is a great time for Brandini to show off his skills. Depending on how he moves around in this matchup, he can give Kumo the idea that he doesn't know that the jungler is there. But Blabber thinks not much of it and just bails out right away. That's kind of how you should play jungle, though. You shouldn't waste a lot of time camping brushes in the current meta. You have to stay moving constantly.
Some coverage there as Golden Glue continuing to pull down minions. Early mana items have been finished, though, for both mid laners. It's the lost chapter on the C9 side versus the tier there for a Blazolive on TSM. Again, he did get a blue buff also, which was nice. Blabber stole TSM's one, but then they walked over and repaid the favor, and it was actually the mid lane that got it instead of the jungler, so not bad there as far as that exchange goes, but otherwise just a lot of farming, and Cloud9 holding a gold lead, up 1600 thanks to some good CSing and a couple kills.
Yeah, lots of farming for them. The jungler is a little bit ahead, even the bottom lane too, but Cloud9's composition becomes stronger when they're grouped together, when the Riven and Morgana can synergize with that Black Shield, when the skirmishes are together. It's a big wave, so TSM is not going to be okay fighting this.
Yeah, they're actually going to strengthen the combo now. Grig going to walk in. There's a stopwatch out of Treats. Diamond going to get dunked, but he gets out under using the Xayah there as Keith is still trying to fight his way out. Gets one route onto Grig. Blabber does slay Treats on the other side. That's a kill onto Keith there. Over to Tactical. He's going to try and get another. Blabber a little too far. He wants one more, but it's just not enough. Q's back around, but there's the double kill for the Sivir. As Golden Glue in with the ulti. Flash ult tags one for the kill. Now looking for the binding, but Grig finds the angle, does not get caught.
And in the top lane, we've got Brandini against Kumo. Some iteration
got ult.
happened here. Both have ults, actually, so this is just a battle without any ultimates. Nobody wanting to commit. That fight in the bottom lane was so close. It looked like TSM was taking a poor fight, but it was just a big bait. Jarvan was right behind them.
Yeah, really nice lane gank there from Grig as Brandini still applying that pressure. Proxies away, forces Kumu to TP back. As Keith and Diamond going to scoop mid for one wave at least, because Golden Glue is still down in the bot lane.
That dragon is still open, and Cloud9 has priority here. Let's see if they decide to pull the trigger on this, because their ultimates are down, so it could be a good window of opportunity for TSM to take the fight.
Another good juke, but Grig still gets tagged by the resonating strike. There's the knockup, but good hook from Treats. Actually denied that initiation, I think. But Grig will get away.
That was a sick hook. That saved his life. Now the Rumble matchup is what I'm really curious about, though, because in that entire fight bottom, we know that they 1v1 and that Rumble won it.
And then no one used ulti.
Right, and no one used ults, and Rumble has even more armor now, so he's going to be even harder to gank and more difficult to match for the Riven as long as he continues to play how he's doing. Riven's going to need to hit that armor penetration before she can actually deal with Rumble significantly. So the Black Cleaver that he's planning on building with the Kindle Gem will need to be online before I think he is confident in just going up to Rumble and taking a fight whenever he wants.
Yeah, it seems like no matter how much mobility you have, Flame Spitter just pretty good against melee champions, but Blabber continuing to show attention here to the bot lane. TP also in from mid by Golden Glue as Drake is getting a little more attention as the game continues on.
It's not a great Drake. Let's be honest, it's not Mountain, it's not Infernal, it's Cloud, and yeah, mobility is nice and everything, but it's not a dragon that you want to give your life for, one that is worth risking a sneak or risking potentially falling behind an experience. So you want to secure it when there's nothing else going on, when it's really the easiest, but a fight onto Blabber.
Blabber face check, good Black Shielder from Golden Glue, 2v2 kicking off, but Blabber already a little too low. Greek with the dunk, Diamond there finds a double knocker, but a Blaze Olive already took down Lee Sin. Treat's not fighting back as Keith exhausted, forced to run back away. Realm Walk finds one, there's the snare up. Keith finds himself for the ulti, but Brandini flanks around as the Blaze Olive gets himself the double kill.
And it doesn't matter how strong your Black Shield is, if Ryze catches you and you don't see it coming, you're still gonna go down. That's a combination we wanted to see in the draft. Ryze and Jarvan, they even locked down a Lee Sin out of all champions, so they're getting to go online. Double buffs for Ryze, and he's going to be able to push this lane endlessly, stack that Archangels, and make sure that he hits his spike as soon as possible.
Tactical still staying. Once the plate gold, the Lantern's out, he will collect it. Diamond trying to fight it, but the Lantern stays out long enough for Sivir to zip away to safety.
Let's take another look at how this went down. So Blabber throws a Q and immediately assumes nobody is there, but it was all a ruse. The Black Shield does not prevent the root, and while he's looking for a double root on the Jarvan, and the dunk does get dodged by the flash, Ryze does way too much damage all on his own, finds the Realm Warp later, and the exhaust keeps Keith just in enough range for that everybody can make it. A little bit of an unnecessary teleport out of Brandini. He was surely hoping to get that kill, but hey, if you give the gold over to the Ryze, you got nothing to complain about. He's just as strong as carry as anyone else.
Yeah, TSM taking the right fight there. Kumo, after the earlier 1v1, couldn't TP even if you wanted to, so TSM knowing they would have the advantage and do capitalize well, eking out one extra turret plate just barely at the end of it all. Still, gold is very close now as TSM Academy move it back to even. GLP also finished, as you can see. Just using it for a bit of wave clear there, I think, more than anything else. Definitely watching for these mid laners to get out of the mid lane when they can and try and affect more of the engagements that should be coming more frequent as the game kicks on.
And it's going to be very difficult for Cloud9 now to continue moving forward through the mid lane. They only have push, but they're not that strong in the damage department. Ryze and Jarvan can out-damage Lee Sin and Morgana, mostly because Morgana just has two abilities, really. Your Pool does not count as a damaging ability unless you hit your bind, unless you lock down the stun. So it's a conditional spell that it is unreliable.
First turret also still on the table, so Ethan Diamond's continued pushing has netted them almost a 20 CS lead and should net them first turret gold as well. It is traded for the Rift Herald, however, which Greg has now picked up in his trinket slot. As Golden Glue popping everything to get away. A Blaze Olive starting to work through that Black Shield a little too quickly.
He still has flash as well, so he can either be really aggressive with it or get out of a potential Morgana engage. Those are the timings that you really want to see out of a Blaze Olive. The second that the Black Shield goes out, how quickly can you burst it down? That's going to help everybody else on this team moving forward, because remember, the Black Shield can stop all of Jarvan's knockups as well. There's no chance of him breaking that. It's a physical damage knockup, so if Ryze isn't there to burn it, or the Rumble doesn't do a good job either, Jarvan's going to be just as useless.
But for now, not that much AP and only one level critically. We do see Morgana's, I think, change their skill order up pretty frequently depending on the situation, but for this one it has been pull max first for Golden Glue and now has 3 points into the Dark Binding. So it will be a while before the AP and the levels really kick in to amp up the Black Shield, as Greg just going to try another Rift Herald in mid here.
It's a 4-man rotation in here with the dual lane moving up, but the dual lane out of C9 is also coming. Top laners are not involved, and with everybody moving up, it looks like it's not going to be able to take down the turret and just a little bit of damage. Without plates being involved, it's almost as if he just took the Rift Herald for a little bit of gold and some turret damage. Nothing major.
Yeah, not bad. expecting to get that turret a little bit more quickly now, and does give Tactical some room here as he's going to rotate back down, but just again, going to take out the waves. Don't have a turret to run back to either, so the duo lane might have to play a bit more carefully. You can see Treats playing back off to the edge of the screen to give maximum lantern recovery if needed.
Ooh, so it looks like, wait a minute. Okay, we're good. Looks like Kumo might be going for a Spear of Sojin as his first item here instead with the BF sword and the Kindle gem. So really strong item on Riven, and it makes a lot of sense because Cloud9 is not that strong with the 4-man. They need Riven to group up to truly complete the composition. Once Riven has that item, if you're grouped up, you're looking for just a one big fight. That's what you're looking for. And so with the Spear of Sojin, that's the item that allows you to do that perfectly. Just one big fight where you have Black Shield, all your abilities are going on shorter cooldowns. The more you use them, the more you use damage. So I love this build now. It makes so much sense, but now I'm curious as to when is C9 going to pull the trigger on this? Are they waiting for an item spike, or are they waiting for a major objective? Because the Dragons have not been very good to fight for. It's just a Cloud Dragon. You're not going to go crazy for that one. You're going to be happy laning because the Riven, the longer she goes, the longer she's going to be scaling, and she's super strong in the late game.
Yeah, just the Ocean Drake coming back up right now. Oh, another brush bait. But Greg does just go straight in. Diamond pop the quickness, but can't find a target. Just barely get a Blaze Oliver. He gets blown up on the other end of it. Good ult there from Brandini as Blabber also going to get run down here. A TP in as late from Cloud9 Academy, and that's Kumo forced to turn tail instantly.
Yeah, without the Lee Sin being able to get the jump on the enemy, he's the one that gets surprised. Jarvan finds him right away, and Rakan thought he had an opportunity to engage, but he got melted down by the Rise. He's not that strong. Remember, the Black Shield is not an indication that you can just tank everything. You should still play as if it wasn't there because, like you said, the levels aren't there. The AP hasn't been fully built. And worst of all, Riven is not there yet to truly receive the benefit. She now has that Spear of Sojin, but she doesn't have TP to really help out anyone else. She's looking for a fight, but she's not going to pop the ult on this. Thresh is collapsing.
Yeah, actually, Kumo going to have to run. Good hop over the wall with that third Q. Keith also up here pressuring the top outer turret. Cloud9 at least hold on to their structure advantage, but with the gold being even and a Blaze Olive pushing the outer turret in bot lane, I don't expect that to stand for too much longer. So TSM Academy, after being down a little in the early game, are going to find themselves up a few thousand gold once these kind of next few moves happen.
Their comp just has so much AoE damage. You can see it right here again. So Blabber's moving in. The ward just barely fades, so TSM gets just a glimpse of it. But they're all grouped up, so they don't even care. They have no vision. They say, let's go, let's get in here. And Rakan thinking, okay, I got out. Let's see if I can get back in. Gets blown immediately. A great kick onto the Rise, but he has flash, and the Rumble collapsed a lot sooner than the Riven. And in a lot of these fights, the first one to be there is going to make the difference. Being able to counter the play is nowhere near as impactful as being there from the start when you're dealing with compositions that have so much AoE that benefit each other, like the Cataclysm, like the Sivir Ultimate, and the Black Shield on Morgana.
Yeah, just showing the power of Rise W, I think, there as well. Everyone just ate a snare as soon as they got into range. Keith does get the turret in top lane, however, so Cloud9 continuing to find ways to keep the gold even, but TSM Academy getting the better end of these earlier fights, if nothing else. Still mid lane turrets up as well, though, means that there's not a whole lot of room to do any maneuvering around, so maybe expect them to take a little while longer.
That's why you pick Sivir when they first pick Morgana, and I think Sivir's going to continue to rise in priority because of that and her wave clear ability. No matter what happens to TSM from now on, you'll always have Sivir to wave clear, to protect your turrets. There's not a long-range sieging composition. This is not even a comp that can dive so easily. You have members that can't necessarily close the gap as quickly as everyone else. So if Sivir can stay safe and stay farming, TSM does have the ability to stall this out.
Now you can see both teams actually putting their AD in a spot where they feel they can comfortably farm. Keith is actually in the top lane right now, just getting as much farm as he can. That leaves Kumo in the long lane there, but the Spear of Sojin is now completed. So perhaps those 1v1s, all those team fights will get a bit better for him.
And so it looks like he's going Spear into a Death's Dance. Oh no, never mind. She's gone for the armor penetration. So making sure that she can 1v1 that Rumble is a very good idea because right now she can't really do that.
Yeah, it seems like Kumo thinking a bit more about the side lane and maybe C9 playing 4-1. TSM are continuing to try and find advantages. These turrets are getting low, but still need to knock them down. Top outer, as you can see, about 30% health left, even less here in the mid lane as Tactical might have enough. Although he just have to move himself around the dining. Golden Glue uses it though, Grig moves in, and between the flag and the extra damage there should be enough to take it down, even with the mending wave getting pretty quickly killed.
Yeah, that's a very big objective for TSM Academy. This was the earlier work of the Rift Herald being finally completed, so they were able to convert that. Not a lot of gold that matters at this stage in the game because we have an Infernal coming up now that is the biggest impact on this as opposed to the gold. It's about the map presence, it's about being able to push the wave, push your opponent deeper into the base and get deeper vision. That the deeper the vision is, the more time you have to see them coming, potentially get a pick and not have to take a 5v5 but a 4v5.
And as a reminder, while TSM swept their semi-final, Cloud9 did drop their first game but came back to win the next 3 against Team Liquid pretty handily. However, they did put up a fight in game 1, so I think they're just kind of warming up, navigating their way around the situation. Doesn't mean that you want things to slip, because the game could get out of hand very quickly, and TSM Academy have been playing well, but it's picks like that, almost, that make the difference.
Ooh.
Bit short on the dance there from Diamond.
And that's a huge deal. The Infernal Dragon is coming up in 40 seconds. That ultimate's not going to come back up without finding that pick. Now you have the choice of, do we take the Dragon fight without any vision priority and without the Rakan ultimate? What does Cloud9 do? Because they don't have any objectives to take. There's pings going on to the tier 2 and to the top side, which may allow Xayah to farm, but this Rumble's going to be up there to wave clear. He's got teleport. Worst case scenario, he pops an equalizer. Oh, Morgana!
Golden Glue forced to flash away. Binding not going to land. The Lantern there from Truth gets Grig out safely, but Blabber we also spotted up there. I believe TSM Academy had a ward, so feeling pretty comfy as the Infernal Drake does spawn, but Baron seems to be a bit more of a priority right now. Teams wanting to fight for that vision first, it seems.
And that's weird because Cloud9 doesn't have the fastest Baron team, so I don't think TSM should be too worried. You always have a Realm Warp. Sivir can get you from Dragon into the Baron pit very quickly, and you have the
Kumo just slipped his way in, and now wants to get himself out. Does get out of there. Sivir ult was popped by Tactical, but that will be Infernal Drake going over to TSM.
Just a cheeky little scouting. Use your face-to-face check. But if you're Riven and you've got so much CDR, you can do that.
Well, not punished this time, but still the Drake's piling up now for TSM Academy. Gold still even. In fact, dead even. They just saw it tick back over for TSM. Cloud9 trying to play the map, do what they can. Again, they've been very successful all split long. Just being a really well put together and disciplined team. I think that's one of the things that does separate them and is why they've been so successful in Academy, is that, yeah, they're full of talented players, but they've been trained well at how to approach kind of closing out the game and playing, you know, playing the standard stuff well.
Well, both of these teams have learned from North America's best, so I'm happy that the lessons that their big brothers have taught them are trickling down. And look at that, the classic bush bait. Pink ward in the pit. Who's going to fall for it?
Maybe Treats, not this time. Tactical also showing a lot of respect as Keith comes out from under the shrubberies to at least get some damage done to this turret, perhaps.
You know, the bait doesn't work because of the champs that they have. They just don't believe that they would be doing Baron, no matter what. So you don't have to fall for it. If this was a Cassiopeia and the mid lane, now you have to respect that and you start considering, okay, we should get moving because they could rush. But Morgana, no chance. She's not a Baron taking jungler. Same with Lee Sin. So they can go Mia, and TSM will take all the time in the world to face check, to look for it, to investigate it. It's not of any urgency.
You can see Golden Glue does get the control ward that Grig plays down, but Grig is moving back around to try and re-establish that vision. Already finished his Warmonk on top of that Cinderhulk. No Warrior this time around, so very much full tank Jarvan here for Grig.
Morgana doesn't have flash. That's the ability that Grig blew with his last ultimate, so I'm sure he's looking and thinking of ways to engage into the Morgana. And now a 3-on-3, they scout each other. He's going in.
Grig looking for it. Cataclysm pop, finds two. Knocks up Blabber and Keith, but taking a little too much damage. Good hook though. Finds the kill as the Blaze Olive, grabs it, but Diamond with a great initiation to maybe turn him back around. Everyone TP's back in. The Black Shield onto Kumo. There's one kill, but he gets shredded down instantly by the rest of the damage. And re-engage from Grig does kill off Keith. A double kill and yet another there for TSMA as they win the fight 4-4-1.
And TSM finds the fight fight they were looking for, lingering around the red side, waiting for the opportunity. Grig leads the charge. This guy was supposed to be on main TSM. Now he's out here leading Academy. They find the Baron 27 minutes into the game, and when you take a look at that fight, TSM had all their members necessary there from the very start. Let's see how this starts. So you already have 4 guys here. C9 has 3, so the fight is already going to be in TSM's favor. The teleport comes out. Now it's a 2-on-3. Lee Sin gets popped immediately. There's no way that Cloud9 can go into this. The Black Shield gets deleted right away. A beautiful exhaust out of Treats minimizes that damage onto the Riven, and the rest is cleanup. None of the carries were ever threatened, and that's just recognizing, hey, we've got a few seconds with a numbers advantage. Go now. This is the kind of Jarvan play that makes him such a powerful pick right now.
And we've talked about how decisive both these teams are. It's TSM's decisiveness that wins the day on that particular play, as now we'll see how much damage they can get done. Top outer is disposed of. That was the easy one for TSM Academy to pick up. But with 2.5 minutes still for Baron, we'll see just how many turrets they can knock down.
Yes, how will they utilize this Baron? Because they can definitely 1-3-1, but they've been winning these fights by being grouped sooner than Cloud9. So if I'm Cloud9, I want to be grouped now. It's time to get a 5v5. We're not ready to get out of this just yet. We need to test out this composition if every member is there from the start. So that's what they should be looking for right now. Try to wave clear a little bit and look for that 5v5.
Treats does get poked down a little, but will get out safely and isn't the most valuable member, although if Brandini gets picked, that's a bit different. Diamond finds the combo. Kumo again, also going to dive back in. There's Grig now, way too deep in the backline after Blabber kicked him out, but the Redemption down kid, forced to burn the ulti and flash to get out from under the equalizer. And Cloud9 is getting corralled between their turrets. Grid goes back in, pops the shield, Tack gets the kill. They're just going to rampage onto the turrets. Everyone from TSM diving in, a Blaze Olive flash Q, a double kill for the Rise, a double kill for the Sivir, and TSM Academy find themselves the ace.
They put a stop to that engage. They want none of that. They knew that Cloud9 was looking for the fight, but they were not in a position to get taken advantage of. They kited back so well. Rise ported in the second that the fight was happening. He's now 5-0-7. 2 members of TSM have not died, and now they're going to be going to end the game.
And Cloud9 joked that, you know what, we're probably going to win 3-1 because of that warm-up game. Well, TSM Academy looking warmed up already. They'll knock down the turrets, they'll take down the Nexus, and kick their series off with a bang.
That was great teamwork out of these guys. Every fight, all the members were firing on all cylinders. Every single person that needed to be there was there. The macro play out of TSM was just phenomenal for game 1.
And again, we talked about Cloud9 leaning on their macro strength, leaning on their cohesiveness as a team and how they play around the map. Well, looked like that was TSM's plan as well, and they looked a lot better in that first game. 2 explosive team fights, and that's the game.
And just so much damage, and I think that we might be leaning more towards that kind of composition in the meta as opposed to a minimal damage. Cloud9's Golden Glue did not have a position or a champion to really carry that much without having somebody else to rely on. The Kindred ban, I think, was huge here. If that had been a Kindred instead of a Lee Sin, the composition changes drastically. So much more damage, and when you don't have the tools to pick off somebody when you have a 2-on-1, you're just going to be so much more passive and inactive on the map.
And you could see between Sivir, Jarvan, and Rise, more than enough ways to catch people and try and start the fights. For more, though, on how Game 1 shook out, let's send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Game 1 goes the way of TSM, which is great for them considering we were talking up Cloud9 as the favorites in the matchup. Of course, it was also mentioned by the casters that Cloud9 did drop their first game in the semifinals, so maybe a bit of slow starters here.
They got them right where they wanted.
They got them right where they wanted. No, I'm just saying maybe a bit of slow starters. I do have some questions to you guys about how the draft continued to fill out. We kind of had that opportunity to talk about it halfway through. How do you think about the compositions and how they rounded out?
I think it was a good attempt for them to try to put Golden Glue and Morgana for game 1. I think they're kind of giving the other players a chance to kind of carry the game for the first game. I think throughout the season you saw Golden Glue was one of the main carriers on the team, but this game he's kind of taking a step back. And I think that's not really the worst thing to do since it's the game 1 of a best of 5 after all. It was good. I like to see that in their draft. It didn't really give away much, and like we said, Game 1, maybe it doesn't matter that much. They did lose the last Game 1 in the semifinals. So.
It's one of those things where, like, if you had won this game, it has really big consequences for the rest of the series because it's like, oh my God, they first picked Morgana, it crushed us, and it has a big influence. But because they lost, it looks a lot worse.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go take that side because I didn't like this draft that much.
Okay.
I mean, like you're saying, Golden Glue is kind of the key focal points. Game 1, go for it maybe. But even with that, like the fact that they gave away that it was a flex pick right away, they didn't use it to counter into the Thresh. They kind of just put it mid and telegraphed it was there the whole time.
Yeah, maybe there's a more inventive way to get to the exact same composition.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Okay, well then let's talk about how things played out, because top of the day, we put a spotlight on the mid lane, but we also talked about the junglers, as both of these guys have a ton of experience, both in Academy and in the LCS, both of them being able to pilot early game champions here, and Blabber looked to be out to a hot start.
It looked like C9A was going to steamroll this game. You get the Riven in the counter matchup a little bit ahead, so it's going to be an easier laning phase. Then you influence this bot lane matchup, which scales pretty well. It's against the Thresh, so you think, hey, everything's going great. We should be able to kind of win from there. But then Grig started asserting himself and quickly kind of took over this game.
Yeah, it all kind of flipped around in that fight right there that we just showed, where Blabber had like he had the chance to pull off a highlight.
It was the montage play.
Yeah, it was almost there, but he wasn't quite able to do it,
Yeah.
and it kind of ended up going TSM's way because of that. And I think that was like honestly the turning point of the game.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, through the end of the game, Grig's KP was 100% all the way up through that Baron. So great on him to be able to turn it on, in contrast to Blabber, who started hot, started to fall off.
And that's the problem you see with Blabber sometimes. When he subbed in middle of the LCS split, this split, he played a Rek'Sai game where they were just trying to outscale, and he kept going aggressive. And it felt like that was the case this game, where they made these good early plays. Your comp should be more of a team fighty comp, maybe a 4-1 comp, and you need to give it a little bit of time to get out of the Rumble power spike with the Jarvan. And he just didn't chill. He just kept going in and kept fighting, which is sometimes his downfall.
Yeah, I mean, you point at the ADC itemization as a call for him to needing to take a step back. You have the Essence Reaver on Xayah, you have the Eye Edge on the Sivir. Well, one of those is more powerful than the other as a singular item, and yet it seemed like Cloud9 was the ones trying to push the pace at time. TSM, credit to them for their global or objective control. I do want to take a look at one fight, because Cloud9, Mark, explain this one for me in the mid lane. Cloud9 has vision control, and Greg says, screw that!
Yep, a bunch of people in the brush, sees the sweeper catching some people out, and doesn't say, oh, I don't know how many people are there, actually goes in with no vision and starts this fight. And then because they're the one picking it, Rumble was roaming first. TP has to come through for Kumo. It takes too long, and the fight's already over. Plus, this is kind of what we're saying, this is the power spike of a Jarvan Rumble comp, fighting around these kinds of objectives at this point in the game. It was really funny because right before that, Demonte was saying, like, C9 shouldn't take this fight. It's in the enemy team's power spike. You're in a good spot. And I was saying, well, they have vision control, Demonte. Like, this should be fine.
No, that was like the most manly play of Greg of all time. Like, even I was kind of surprised, but for sure, if you're playing against a Rumble and Jarvan comp for sure, and you're sitting with a Morgana mid, like, you have to have so much patience in that comp. And you can't get baited. If you feel like you have the control of the game, like, you should really just use that to slow down the tempo and not really take a fight. Like, you saw Greg was just too confident there to go in with almost just zero vision. So that's how they need to play the comp, and Greg pulled it off.
All right, let's jump ahead then to 26-30 into the game. This up in the top river. TSM going to secure the Baron off this one. They seem to be grouping just a little bit better around these objectives in the first to the play every time.
Yeah. One of the advantages of a Sivir comp, you're able to sprint in there right away, and they were able to be the aggressor every time. All these are basically starting with the Jarvan EQ play. And then they're trying out. Looked like there was a chance the Morgana might be able to flash in and go, but she has a supportive build. Flash was down, and you're up against a stronger team fighting comp at this point in the game. There was no chance to turn that around. Plus, this fight's happening right next to the Baron, so you know what's coming after this.
Yeah, I think this comp is just very hard to execute for C9. They just had to go very slow, and as soon as they weren't able to do that, the game is just sort of really free for TSM.
But I think right there, taking a look at that gold graph, you can see how closely matched these two teams seem to be through the early game. Never being more than 2K ahead in terms of Cloud9 until that breaking point around the Baron for TSM. From there, one team fight, you get the win. Here's what I want to talk about now. Game 2, what's got to change? TSM has elected to move over to blue side. So in contrast to what we're seeing in the LCS, where teams have chosen their side and they stick to their side through all 5 games of that best of series, we are flip-flopping this time around. So what are your thoughts here, Demonte, on what maybe C9 can do from the red side to maybe grab a game back?
I think now they kind of need to rely on Golden Glue again. I think definitely you want to take him off of something like Morgana. That it didn't look that great. I mean, it's not like he played bad, but it didn't seem like his team was able to step up when they needed to. And I think he needs to put on the carry shoes now and kind of be the leader for his team.
The other thing, too, is it's so weird to know what's going to happen on blue side. Like, what is TSM targeting with what they want on blue side? Because the first pick Morgana is not typical.
I'd be fine letting you have that again.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, is it the Silas ban that they're trying to free themselves of so that then maybe they can grab that or something? I'd be really interested to see, because this didn't feel like a draft that had a ton of the power picks that we're used to seeing in the meta right now.
All right, outside the draft, though, within the game itself, what do we want to see from Cloud9? It sounds like patience is something that they would have, done well to kind of accept into their lives in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think for that draft, they needed patience, but
Okay.
I want to see them move away from that.
So move into a more aggressive draft,
Yeah.
which that play style would have been more okay.
Yeah,
with.
because I mean, you have a player like Blabber on your team, and this guy, all he wants to do is fight. He's an absolute maniac, and he pulls off like most of his ganks. Like you saw this game, the early game was all Blabbers, and like if they're able to draft something where it's very fast and Golden Glue also has a carry, and they just play as two, I think the games will be much easier.
Give your players the agency to make the plays they want to make. That being said, TSM comes away with game one. Cloud9, though, they've got a shot to equalize when we return. The Academy MSI Finals continue after this.